Today's topic is the free strategy call, which is hugely important in building not only your business, but also building great client relationships. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you will be able to see the free strategy call roadmap. If you're not, fear not, we will talk you through the 10 steps in sequence. James, you're going to take steps 1, 2, and 3. Go for it.
Go. Thanks for that. I appreciate it. No, I think let's put some context to this. I think in terms of getting new clients, I think a strategy call is one of the best ways to onboard people and to make sure that they're a fit or not a fit in terms of your business. And it also sets levels of expectation and professionalism in terms of onboarding clients as well. I think there's a lot of trainers out there today who like to just onboard clients via WhatsApp, Facebook messages, all these things here, and they don't have a system in place to show their expertise and worth. And that's the biggest thing I find. A lot of fitness professionals are not professional in the work that they try and do. They think they're professional because that's what the industry standard is, but we need to raise the level up and become more professional. In terms of, if you go to a chiropractor, an osteopath, a physical therapist, there's systems and procedures you expect, okay? You expect usually to see a receptionist. You speak to someone on the phone first, you book in a time, you then see there's barriers to getting to see that consultant, okay? Same with a doctor. But in terms of trainers, they go, yeah, we'll see you, we'll send you a message here, there, and everywhere. It's not professional, right? And if you want to have a professional service, raise your prices so they're professional prices, you've got to have a system in place, and it starts with this strategy call that leads from your website into your whole business, into the world of who you are and what you're trying to do to set those professional terms. And for us, we see so many people online doing get started and book a consultation, book this. We see a strategy call converts faster and better than anything, not just in our industry, we've seen in other industries as well, and people talking about the same thing. People are more receptive to booking on to a free strategy call because it feels less like a sales call that they're going to be pitched to. And that's important. We want this strategy call. Yes, it's a form of selling. However, we don't want it to come across as selling yet. We want to make sure this is completely like a conversation like we're having here right now. That's the most important thing. So that's the backdrop for the strategy call. It's a good starting point to get your clients into the world and to book into your high-level services. Now, I'm not talking like cheap $19, $20 stuff. This is your personal training services or your gym membership that's just high-end. This is a way to do it this way. Okay, I think so that gives a bit of context behind it. Anything else I think you need to add to that, Andrew, or has that covered pretty much everything?
I think it covers the basics, but then just to let everybody know, the strategy call is, it's a short call. It's not a full-blown consultation in any way. You're just finding out the key details to make sure that a fit or not a fit moving forward.
Yeah, good point. So again, in terms of time frame, this is 15 minutes. This is a 15-minute call, and we're not trying to sell on this call. The selling will happen in the next stage, and we'll talk about these stages here now and how we approach it. So there's like 10 steps.
Does it take a little bit of practice before we go into the steps? Does it take a little bit of practice to get it to that 15 minutes? Might they be longer initially?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you should have it a little bit longer initially. You try and save 15 minutes to respect their time, but it may take a few extra steps because you're learning and gathering information. I was doing this recently in terms of the website strategy calls. So again, we follow the same strategy call for the website onboarding with Strength Matters. And it's important to get as much information and listen to the people to begin with to tailor it. So what we're not going to give you here is a script. We want to give you a framework because it's got to feel like a natural conversation each time. So sometimes you may skip 1 or 2 steps, or you may go back a step depending on where people jump to, but it's got to feel like a conversation. But as long as we hit and try and hit as many of these 10 points as possible in this order, it stands us in good stead to show authority and show that we know what we're doing, leading them to the next stage. So 15 minutes, try not to go over 30 minutes, just respect their time and your time as well. So, but yeah, the ideal is to keep it to 15 minutes to begin with, which you can do with practice and confidence, I think, is the best way to put it.
Okay, do you want to run us through the first 3 steps then?
Yeah, so step number 1 is quite simply build rapport. Like, say hello, talk to them, ask them about the weather, say where they're calling from. We get calls from all over the world, so I'm always interested to learn about where they're from, or if I've been there, talk about something I know from the place I've been there to, or if I don't know the place, I had some guy in South Africa, Nsi, I think his name is. Hopefully I pronounced that name right. So if I haven't, I just learned that there's a whole new province and a whole new country within South Africa because of it. So we started talking about that.
I was going to say, was that the country within a country that I didn't even know existed?
That was, exactly. So we just ended up starting talking about that to begin with. Then we talked about cricket, because we had that background in common. So build rapport. It doesn't have to be long, but just find something of mutual interest, or find something in common. So we always, I'm from Wales. It always rains in Wales. So if someone's from a rainy part of the world, so hey, is it raining over there? Yeah, cool. Same here in Wales too. That type of thing. But that's the first thing, is build rapport. And okay, we're going to give away this document that we put together all for free. So at the end, we'll give you the where you can go and download it, so you have some of the basic information, the prompts we use for these things. That's the first thing, build rapport. Next thing is set expectations. Tell people quite clearly, hey, we've only got 15 minutes because I've got a call or I've got another appointment straight after you, and make it clear to them that you're not trying to sell to them on this call. Just say to them, hey, look, this call's going to be 15 minutes long. I'm not going to try and sell you anything today. It's all about helping you and finding out if we can help each other. If we can help you, great. We'll then book another time to do so. If not, no worries. We'll hopefully leave with some great information that you can impart and use in your training, etc., etc. So that's the most important thing, is set those expectations so they don't feel like they're being sold to on this call, because you're not trying to sell them on this call. You're trying to help them out and see if you can help them, or show them where they need to think about going in terms of going to the next steps in their own training potentially. So that's it. And then the third question is very simply, is well, why me? Why now? Why are you booking on a call with say Strength Matters today? What is it about us that has forced you or led you to here today? And why now? Why do you need help with your website right now? Why do you need help with your training? It's asking those things. It's very seamless, and literally you can do this within literally less than 2 minutes. That's 2 minutes of the call gone, and then it gets us right into the meat of the issues of what we're going to talk about very quickly in the next stages. So it's very simple, very natural. It's like a conversation. You're having a chat with someone in a bar, in a pub, that type of thing.
Yeah, fantastic. Andrew, you're going to run us through the next few steps. So step 4 is establishing goals. What is the significance of goal setting in a strategy call?
Just really, and again, this is just in a nutshell, it gives us an idea of what they're looking to ultimately achieve. They've contacted us, as James said, as step 3. So what goals have they set? Are they SMART goals? Are they achievable, etc.? So that it just gives us that idea then whether or not we are the right coach to help them achieve those particular goals. Then we move into step 5, which is what's been holding them back. Why haven't they achieved those goals in the past? Is there is there a mindset issue? Are they self-defeating? Are they sabotaging their efforts, which has meant that they haven't been able to achieve them? So we're just trying to gauge what obstacles there have been in the past, so that we can ultimately help them overcome. And then at step 6, we go to what help do they need? So we're asking them that question. So planting the seed that, yes, you have struggled in the past when you've tried a diet, or you've tried going to the gym, or you've tried a boot camp or fitness class. But what help can we give, or what help do you need to enable you to overcome those, so that you can finally succeed in achieving these goals? So they're on those side.
And I guess that step kind of already gives you a bit of an idea of whether
Absolutely.
they will be a good fit for
Absolutely.
you or not when they're answering that. James, we're going to come back to you for steps 7 and 8. So step 7 is the priority scale of 1 to 10. Now, generally, when you ask on a 1 to 10, someone gives you a number, you'll be like, why didn't you give me a higher number? But you've got some deep psychological question which you learnt in the police, which means you ask them a different question. Do you want to run us through that?
It is, and I think as well, just to caveat all of this, there's a lot of triage calls, strategies. There's lots of consultation call strategies out there, and they follow the similar format for a very good reason, because it works. It really does work, and there's a strategy and a system to it. But I think this is where we differ a little bit in terms of how we approach it, and that's it, right? It's a priority scale. So if someone tells you, hey, I want to run a marathon and do it in under 4 hours, and you go, cool, that's a really good goal. I want to try and help them. So, okay, on the priority scale of 1 to 10, how important is that to you? And they'll say 7. Like you said, normally people say, well, why not 10? And they'll get thinking that way. But I like to go, why not a lower number, right? And as Andrew here on the call, and you, Josh, will testify to this. It stumps you. It gets you thinking about it. Andrew, what was your experience when I asked you out for the first time?
I couldn't speak. It was like I was stumped. I was because I've actually taken clients through similar processes over the last 9 years or so, and it's always been, why aren't you a 10 out of 10? So when we role played this and you asked me why a lower number, I was gobsmacked. I had to stop and think, and that's the point, I guess, isn't it?
Exactly. It makes you stop and think, because what we're trying to get to is the underlying why. Why are they here? So like what we're doing here is it stops them in their tracks. It gets them to think about it and stop and go, well, actually, I want to get there because it's that different framing of the question. It allows you to think differently to get to the core reasons of why they're trying to achieve something. So it's a nice way of putting it to get them to think, oh, actually, yeah, I really want to do this because of this. So you always ask, why not a lower number? And you follow up with a couple of whys afterwards, right? So why is that? Because you get into the surface desire of what they want to do, which is like run a marathon under 4 hours. But what's the core desire? What's the real reason they want to start working with you? And it gets them thinking. It shifts their process, their thought process, to go, actually, this is really important to me. Or if it's not important to them, great. You're not wasting your time the rest of the call because actually it's not that important actually, because it's I don't need to do it. So it's very important here. And even if they say it's a 2, right, you'll go say, well, why not a 1? Why not a lower number? Just ask them that, and then just start the conversation. Now, it's not always appropriate. Sometimes you got to be mindful of that. Sometimes it is when it flows right. However, sometimes where you just skip this sometimes because they're not too keen on the scale of like, I don't really know. If they're not doing that, then well, don't try and push it. Don't try and force it. But if they do say a number and you go, yeah, it's 6 or 7 or 8 or 9, why not a lower number? It gets them really thinking, and it goes, I've never had that from somebody before, ask us into that sort of framework and that mindset. So it's a very good way, because then it sets us up for the recap in steps 8, 9 and 10, because they're kind of telling us their real reasons. So when we go to recap, we're going to recap everything they told us. Say, hey, I want to run a marathon in less than 4 hours because I want to do it to raise money for a charity that my mother passed away in last year. Something like that. I've had that in the past, by the way. That's something that's come out. So it's good to hear that and hear their real reasons for doing it and their motivation. So you go, yeah, okay, it's a recap of everything they've said to us, but why not a lower number helps really get us to the real reasons of it, to allow us to have a better recap, to then allow us to decide whether a fit or no fit. So a fit is yes, great, awesome. We want to work with you guys, but guess what? Let's book you in for another call, and then we'll speak to you then about this and how we can potentially help. Or if it's no, it's not a fit, go, hey, no worries at all. Look, I hope we've got some information. This is what I recommend you start working with or start going with. Try this out. And I think if you want some more specific help, Joe Blogs down the road may be the best fit because he's more in your price range and your budget, etc., etc. So there's things like this you can do. Or I've had times where people who wanted to train for the special forces come to us. I'm not an ex-special forces guy, so therefore I will happily refer out to people who know that inside out. So I know I'm not a right fit based on what they're telling me, but I've helped them in the way in some format, which hopefully later down the line could pay off in a few years, whatever times.
Is that important to try and push them, to try and give them a little bit of help and push them towards a blog or refer them on to someone, because you never know when they might then refer someone back to you, perhaps?
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. Because you just never know. I had somebody, I delivered a kettlebell to somebody by hand in London once because you were struggling to get delivery of a kettlebell. And then a few weeks ago, I think it was Conrad from New Zealand said, hey man, like you delivered a kettlebell to one of my clients once who recommended me to you. And it was like 10 years later, something like that. So you just never know when this sort of stuff is going to happen, when it's going to pay off. So like, yeah, be helpful, educate people. And if you can't help them, be honest. Or if they're not the right fit because they're not the right type of people you want to attract into your business, tell them. It's okay. It's absolutely okay. So that's kind of how I think. Andrew, what do you think about that?
I'm in total agreement. I'm a big fan of paying it forward. I've done it numerous times and it's always benefited me down the line. It's not an immediate repayment in due, but each time I've done it, both with a client who wasn't ready to move forward, I just gave her, added her to my newsletter and gave her some nutritional handouts that she was able to follow, lose weight, and then 18 months down the line, she was ready to sign on as a client. and equally somebody who wanted to get ready for running a marathon, and that wasn't my wheel of expertise. So I passed her on to a good friend who's a PT, and he was able to help. So she was grateful that I did that. He was as well, and you know, he paid it back by passing forward a couple of mobile PT clients that I was able to work with. So no, big fan of that approach.
Cool. Yeah, exactly. It's something so simple, so easy. It's just a nice structure. And then, you know, shout out to Josh Hughes who tried it for the first time. He liked the format. You know, there's a lot of people who've tried this already, not just us who use it here at Strength Managed, but a lot of our clients and members who've tried this out and have applied it as well, and it works to good effect. So as long as you have this system, this is an upfront 15-minute strategy call where it's to help people establish whether they're fit or no fit, and just make sure it's not a sales call. And then it leads to then the discovery session afterwards, whether that's on the phone, on a Zoom call, or in person in the gym, entire events. That's a whole different ballgame, and we'll go into that later down the line. But, you know, you have barriers to get to you, right? So there's like almost 3 distinct barriers. So level 1 is the strategy call. Level 2 is the discovery call. And then before they start working with you, those are the steps they've got to take before you do it. So you set these expectations, set this level of professionalism up right at the start, and I promise you it'll pay back dividends in the long run.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, gents. Yeah, we do highly recommend you using the strategy call. It's a great way to onboard new clients. And if you want the playbook for the strategy call, which will guide you through all 10 steps, go to strengthmatters.com/strategy. That is it for today. Please don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. Until next time.